Now it is full screen.
Yes, sir.
Full screen. Now, Acha, now please tell me that whether the slide is changing or not.
Okay, sir.
Is it the
Yes,
second
it's changed.
change? Okay.
Yes, it's second slide.
Okay. Then I keep it as it is. Okay. No, or should
Okay.
I? Or otherwise, I cannot see all of you.
Okay, sir.
Okay. When I start, you just again you tell me that. Then I can. Okay. Then I will, because now I stop. I stop sharing. So that
Yes,
the initial program should first finish, and then I can start. Okay.
okay, sir. Okay, sir. We'll start in 2 or 3 minutes then.
Okay. Thank you.
Anisha, when do you want to start?
Sir, we'll start at 11:05.
Okay.
Shantanu, good morning.
Good morning. Yes.
How are you?
I'm fine.
Okay.
It would have been nice and better had
Actually,
they organized it offline. Then it would give you an opportunity to come to our college.
but you have not given me that opportunity. You
No,
still
it is not. It is the student program. So when
Oh.
I organize from the department, I will invite you to our department. Actually, see, the problem I suspect is that on Saturdays they are not going to college. So so that is the reason, I think. So they want to have it from their home.
Shantanu, I explained it from another angle. I explained it
Ah,
from the path dependence of growth.
yes,
We are
true.
dependent on this path.
Yes,
So,
yes.
so even after COVID,
Ah,
we are
but
depending on.
but I think the ideal is blended mode. What I now believe, partly offline, partly online.
Partly online. Correct.
Because online has some advantages. It saves a lot of phone
And
calls.
even people from distant places, they can also join
Yes,
easily.
yes. And see, you can get an invited speaker from abroad without
Yes.
paying anything.
You can save the cost.
Huge. So, so COVID has very some positive sides also. We should
Yes. We have
accept
learned
it.
a lot.
Yes.
See,
See.
at this age, okay, I was not computer savvy. I often depend on my
Yes.
students and the junior
Uh-huh.
teachers. But that is an advantage. That is an advantage.
And
Really.
see, I think I was, and all of us were not aware what is Google Meet, what is Link before COVID.
Before COVID, yes. We have
We
we have
were
learned
we were familiar with Skype call, etc., but not
Skype.
Google
Yes.
Meet.
Even now, when I join in the TV talk, they give me some link. I join with them in the Zoom platform, etc.
Zoom. Yes.
And in the budget session also, I met them with both Jeep 24 Ghanta and other TV these channels
uh,
through
uh.
this online platform only. This.
No, online is not that bad always.
Yes. So you can start now.
It is 11:05.
11:05. So I would request you
Yes.
Yes,
because
so we can start with the webinar. Anushka?
yes.
A very good morning, one and all present here. We are happy to welcome all the enthusiastic participants gathered here for today's seminar. Firstly, I would like to request our respected HOD of Department of Economics, Maulana Azad College, to speak a few words. Professor Dr. Shantanu Ghosh is an alumni of University of Milan and a short-term visiting faculty at Department of Economics, Cambridge University. He has also served as a research associate at IIM Ahmedabad. Sir, I would request you to share your valuable insights with us. Over to you, sir.
Well, thank you. And I am pleased that our students have organized this event. Our students are very active, Devashish are. We have one economic society, and I think this is the only such kind of society in our college when I consider all 16 or 17 departments. So I must appreciate the enthusiasm and endeavor of our students, and they have been organizing it regularly. And on behalf of the Economic Society and Department of Economics, I warmly welcome Professor Devashish Majumdar. Uh, he doesn't need any introduction. He is one of the senior most teachers uh, of economics in West Bengal. Very popular teacher. He has written widely and has so many textbooks and other reference books which are uh, prescribed by the university and followed by the students. And he is in teaching service for more than 4 decades. And and he is also a very good speaker. And so, on behalf of the department, I again warmly welcome you. And the topic that you have chosen, growth versus development, this is very relevant and important. Uh, 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 I think, unfortunately, that this development economics paper, which would have been taught to us from the very beginning, now as per this CBCS curriculum, the students are learning it at the last sixth semester, hardly for 2 months. But economics being a social science, I believe, and especially for us, in students from India, we should learn and study development economics from the very beginning. And I think in that sense, the students of third semester or first semester, they will at least get some idea about what is growth, what is development, what is the relevance. And the students of the sixth semester, those who have just completed the fifth semester examination, for them it is very relevant because they are going to uh, uh, learn the subject, this paper, in the sixth semester. As I said, in the last semester, they have to face development economics as a core paper. So, in that sense, this is a very good beginning and introduction for the sixth semester students, the seniors, and it would make our job easier when we start development economics within the next few weeks. So, I would not like to waste time. Dr. Majumdar, he is very busy and he has so many academic assignments. So you are fortunate that you will be able to learn to his views and that he has kindly accepted your invitation. I appreciate your effort that you have chosen the right person and the right topic for this webinar. Thank you. I now hand over the proceedings to the moderator, uh, or to, I do not know what is your exact uh, schedule. So, but sooner we should start the actual lecture. We are eager to hear. Thank you.
Thank you, sir, for your kind and encouraging words. I would now like to hand over the mic to Kaku.
Before I introduce Dr. Debashish Mojumdar, I would like to inform everybody that the GForm link for the Q&A round is given in the chat box. Kindly make use of that. Today we have Dr. Debashish Mojumdar among us to enrich with his session. Dr. Majumdar completed his Masters in Economics in 1978 from Jadavpur University. He completed his MPhil in Economics from Calcutta University in 1984. He was awarded a PhD in Economics from Rabindra Bharati University in 2004. During his career, he served at Udaipur Government College, South Tripura from 1980 to 85, at Sudhiranjan Lahiri Mahavidyalaya, Mojdia Nodia, West Bengal from 1985 to 92, and at Bongobashi College, Kolkata from 1992 to 2016. After his retirement, he has been serving at the Heritage College as professor and HOD of the Economics Department since 2016. He is particularly interested in research works in the fields of economic development, trade and finance. He has contributed about 65 research articles in national and international journals, edited volumes, and authored and co-authored as many as 45 textbooks in different fields of economics. Thank you. Now everyone may proceed with this session.
So should I now start presenting, or you have some other?
Yes, sir.
Okay. First, I want to present the entire screen now. Entire screen. Can you just help me when this window is opening? I want to move to my my own computer screen again. So how to move? Can you please help me? Entire screen. Oh, that's it. How to escape?
So I think if you slide the touchpad with 3 fingers, then this slide minimizes and you can change the slide.
No, I'm on my desktop actually. The desktop is in full screen. So can I exit full screen? Yes, full screen is exited. Okay. Then I open it and I share. Yes, I can share now. I can share the full screen, entire screen, just a minute before you have shown me, na? And then, okay. Then I can move to that slideshow from the beginning. Is it now full screen?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now, please tell me that whether it is changing. Is it changing?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So thank you very much, my dear students of the Maulana Azad College Economic Society, and my dear professors, dear colleagues, dear Shantanu, the principal of Maulana Azad College, and the faculty members of the Department of Economics. I'm really actually honored to be invited by you to share my views on this particular theme. And I have chosen the topic today, namely growth versus development, Indian experience. So now, first, what I want to indicate is the indicators of economic growth and what is actually economic growth. What is the meaning, actual meaning in common parlance? In common parlance, economic growth means the quantitative aspect of economic progress of a country. Actually, when we often talk about, say, the growth of India, now it is expected to be, say, 7%. What does it mean? It means that the GDP in nominal terms or in real terms is expected to rise. So when we can measure the economic progress of our country or any country in terms of the quantity, namely the quantity of GDP or GNP or per capita GDP GNP, say in real terms, normally that indicates the economic growth of a country. So it is a quantitative aspect of economic progress of a country. Okay. Now, normally in recent times or for the last 2 decades, economists, they are now more eager to explain the qualitative aspects of economic progress, not merely the quantitative aspect. That means when you say about the economic growth of a country, the economists, that particularly the economists who are concerned with the economic development of a country, they emphasize on the qualitative aspect of economic progress of a country. So when you move from the quantitative aspect to qualitative aspect, it is actually you are moving from growth to development. Now, the question is, what are the indicators then of economic development? Now, economic development can be explained from many angles. Okay, it is a hydra-headed concept. For example, when you want to say that the living standard of the average people of a country, okay, that is increasing over the years, or say this gender disparity is declining, unemployment rate is declining, infrastructural facilities for the rural people or the common people that is increasing, their health and educational facilities are being improved. And for example, if you talk about in terms of the capability approach of Amartya Sen, which says that if a person through his command over the endowment can convert the characteristics of some commodities into its functionings, then it is called the capability of that individual. For example, say you have a bicycle, but you cannot ride that. If you give a novel to any illiterate person, he cannot read. So you must be able to convert the characteristics of a commodity. For example, I have a, say, mobile phone, smartphone, okay, very, say recent variety of smartphone, improved variety. But I cannot properly, say, operate that instrument. So I'm incapable, okay, of operating. So if through my education, through my skill, through my health, I can convert the characteristics of a commodity into its functionings, then I am capable. So economic development can be explained in terms of that expansion of the capability of the common people of a country through proper education, training, and health facilities. Now, when you measure economic development, then you can utilize, now we are actually utilizing some of the indices. For example, the United Nations Development Programme, in brief it is UNDP, it is utilizing Human Development Index or Gender Development Index or Gender Inequality Index or say Multidimensional Poverty Index. There are several indices which identify the progress of a country in terms of the quality of life of average individual. Okay, that is what is economic development of a country. A country may grow, but it may not develop actually. Okay, for example, the income per capita may increase, but inequality in the distribution of income may increase. Say, then you put a question mark. The country is growing, but whether the country is actually developing, that is a question. Recently in 2021 November, the Chief Executives Board for Coordination of the United Nations, they have emphasized on the progress of a country beyond GDP. It's very important, beyond GDP. You must move beyond GDP. That is, you should not consider only the growth in income or per capita income, but also the factors which are more important for them. For example, the income distribution, as I have told, health and educational attainments of the common people, the availability of different other necessities of life, like housing, safe drinking water, sanitation facilities, cooking fuel, etc. For example, if you see OECD, they are also calculating one Better Life Index. Better Life Index, if you see that index developed by OECD countries, they not only include this income, but also the housing facilities, even the community support they get in at the level of family, household, or at the level of individual. The safety, the feeling of safety in a society. So there are different dimensions of economic development. So economic development is a much broader concept compared to the narrow concept of economic growth. Okay. Now I am moving on to my next this. Is it okay? May I know that is it visible now? No? Is it okay?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now please see in this slide what I am trying to indicate, that from the viewpoint of growth of Indian economy, first I have shown the size in terms of the size of the economy, which very often the Indian economists or even the politicians, they speak about the 5 trillion economy or India's rank in terms of the size of economy based on the GDP size. For example, in 2023, okay, India's rank in terms of the size of a nation, size of a country, in terms of the nominal GDP in terms of US dollar, was about 3,732 billion or 3.7 trillion economy. Our objective is to move to 5 trillion economy. So in terms of the size, our rank is 5th. In terms of PPP, real size, our rank now is 3rd. So from the viewpoint of the growth, from the viewpoint of the quantum, from the viewpoint of the quantity of progress, yes, it is commendable. It is commendable. Now, my objective in this paper is to first indicate different aspects of this growth and the drivers of this growth process. Now, coming to the next slide, I have shown the share of India's GDP in terms of the global GDP. If you see the data spread from 1980 to 2020, you observe that gradually that share has increased. But after reaching a height of 2.8%, it is almost stagnated. That means since 2017, our share, India's share in world GDP has not increased much. Okay, that is one point. Now coming to the next few slides, where I want to show the real net national income growth in terms of the quantity of that particular income, okay, in terms of the rupee, that is how it is growing starting from the early year of Indian planning 50-51 up to 21-22. It is a long-term time series data where you are observing that real net national income of India has been growing. Okay, that is a good sign. This is a growth. This is called the sign of economic growth of India. Similarly, in terms of per capita also, our per capita real income has increased from, say, about 12,000 rupees to now 93 or about, say, 94,000 rupees. Okay, this is in terms of the growth of per capita real income. Okay, so these are the indicators of economic growth of our country. Now, coming to the growth rate, okay, I have segregated it from the pre-reform and the post-reform period. Now, Bhabatosh Datta is one of the renowned economists. in his book, he has stated that if you want to say evaluate the performance of Indian economy, you have two options. Number one, you can compare the growth of our country, growth of GDP, in fact, or growth of income of our country just before independence and after independence. And if you see the works of Moni Mukherjee and Hicks, okay, they have some research works. In that particular work, what we observe is that during 1840 to 1943, just before independence, that time span, India's average annual per capita income growth was about 0.5%. In some of the years, it was negative. But after independence, if you start from the first 5-year plan, that is since 1951-56, you see both this blue line indicates the growth rate of our real GDP, and this red line is per capita. Okay, so it is higher compared to that of pre-independence period. But if you see, if you review this trajectory of growth, Indian growth during the plan period, you observe that since the second 5-year plan, we started with the Nehruvian plan, where say in the Mohanlal plan model, emphasis was given on the expansion of heavy industries. Okay, but that could not actually ensure higher growth in income or per capita. That was sliding down, please see. And after the Green Revolution, say 1968-69, please see, there has been gradual improvement in our income and per capita income. But when you move into the liberalization, say since 1991, you observe that immediately after reform, there was a rise in our growth rate, but that was declining, and there is a zigzag course, and recently is a continuous downfall in that particular growth rate up to 2021 data that I have actually considered here. So what is my point is that when you open your economy, when you're now linked to the global economy, then what is the volatility of that growth compared to the pre-reform period? That is important. Growth is important, but how far your growth is being affected by global fluctuations, that is called the volatility. Okay, that is important. Here, the graph indicates that the growth is now more volatile, okay, more susceptible to global fluctuations during the post-reform period as such. Now here, I have considered the sectoral growth rates. Okay, this black line indicates the service sector, the red line indicates the industry, and the green indicates the agriculture. And among them, the rank of agriculture always remained at the third position and much more volatile to the this growth rate. Volatility is higher because we know that Indian agriculture was much more susceptible to the vagaries of monsoon. Okay, but in fact, what we observe that other sectors' growth are also very much susceptible to these fluctuations. And now the rank is highest in case of service, and we call it a service-led growth during the post-reform period. So when you analyze Indian economic growth, okay, then you may call it a service-led growth because service sector's contribution was highest during the post-reform period. Gradually, please see also its growth rate outpaced that of the industrial growth rate, and it was always higher than that of both the growth rates were higher than that of the agricultural sector. So although greater part of Indian workforce, they depend on primary sector, primary activities or agriculture, the growth rate in Indian agriculture was lower than that of industry and service. This is one character of the growth process. Now coming to the volatility that I wanted to show in my earlier slides, that fluctuations or volatility of growth in case of our real GDP growth rate, our agricultural GDP growth rate, our industrial GDP growth rate, and service GDP growth rate. And here I have just calculated the standard deviation over time of that particular growth. Say I have taken pre-reform, particularly 1951 to 1985, and the post-reform period 1986 to 2021, and I have shown that this standard deviation in that particular growth rate, that is the departure from the average, was higher during the post-reform period, indicating that the growth in these sectors were much more volatile during the post-reform period. This is one aspect, that is growth with volatility. When you are susceptible to much more volatility, then you are much more susceptible to uncertainty. Okay. So you are much more now volatile to global fluctuations. For example, during the COVID, the whole world shattered, and the countries which are much more linked through global supply chains, okay, they were much more affected. So that is one aspect of your susceptibility to global fluctuation. Now, in the growth, often the students, they are interested in knowing the structural shift in that growth. Okay, here I have shown that structural transformation of Indian economy, and this structural transformation indicates the relative contribution of different sectors towards our GDP, the share of different sector. And here the red line indicates the share of the industrial sector, secondary sector. The green line indicates the share of our primary or agricultural sector, and this yellow line or the amber line indicates the share of the service sector. If you see that at the early stage of Indian planning, okay, 1950-51, the share of our primary sector in India's GDP was highest. It was about 54%, and now it is in 21-22 it has come down gradually to 18%. Of course, from 29-10 it has slightly increased, but still it is now the lowest among these three sectors. But in case of service, please see the contribution has immensely improved from 32% now at 54%. It has reached at the peak level of 57% during 2009-10. Now, so far as the industrial share of the industrial sector, the secondary sector is concerned, we find that it has grown, but very slowly, and the share is almost stagnated. Okay, so this is how you can indicate or analyze the structural shift, where yes, we have experienced growth, but without the mature development of the secondary sector. And actually you need the growth of the secondary sector for a firm base. Okay, if there is service sector growth, service sector actually implies some different various service which are actually not real in that sense. Okay, the service sector doesn't produce anything real. For example, if the salary or the DA of the government workers, okay, increases, then that will lead to higher say outcome of the service sector. But service sector, that doesn't mean that it is producing something real. So the real base of growth is the growth in industries, the manufacturing sector, growth in agriculture. So you can consider an economy as a developed economy, yes, when its contribution from tertiary sector is highest, but with a firm basis on its manufacturing sector, which is not, I think, has happened in India. Okay, if you review this trajectory. Now, when you consider the growth, there are the drivers of growth. For example, do you know what is called capital formation? Capital formation means the rate of change of the stock of capital, and in macroeconomics you call it investment. So when you want to invest in the productive activities, then you need savings. Okay, so you can say consider the growth of gross domestic savings in India over time, and here I have considered both the GDS as well as the gross domestic investment in India over time. And what we observe, I want to show some of the puzzles in the growth process. The puzzles in the sense that even if you observed a stagnating or slightly declining gross domestic savings in some say time period, for example during this 78 to 85, and even if there is a fall in this gross domestic savings or stagnating gross domestic savings and slight increase in gross domestic investment, you can see that despite this stagnancy, despite this poor performance in terms of the contribution of GDS, our GDP, the growth rate was actually, it was increasing. Now, what is the reason? What is the reason of that puzzle? So it may so happen, it has actually happened in India that in many times, gross domestic savings and investment didn't perform well. But counterintuitively, what we observed that our GDP was rising. Alternatively, we have also seen some period where GDS, gross domestic savings and gross domestic investment, they have increased without corresponding outcome in terms of GDP growth. So these are some of the puzzles that we can show. Recently, what has happened in India during 22-23 as opposed to 21-22, our financials, our household sector savings in terms of the financial assets with the household sector, that has declined. This is a typical say feature which many economists are very much scared about, and that household debt as a percentage of India's GDP, that has increased. So most of the households now are, during the post-COVID period, are more indebted. Their financial assets in terms of their bank deposits, their cash and equity investment, etc., that has declined. And you must be knowing that the small savings, okay, in the GDS, gross domestic savings, this household sector, they contribute maximum, about 74% of the India's total gross domestic savings is being contributed by this small household sector. So they're very important. Household sector's contribution to India's gross domestic savings is very important. So if there is a fall in the savings capacity of the financial assets with the household sector, then that is bad for our economy in the sense that the government of India takes a huge amount of loan, borrowing from this small savings so as to convert that borrowing into productive investment. So if there is a fall in this savings, then that can affect our growth. Okay, this is one aspect that I want to indicate. Now coming to our GDI, gross domestic investment. Okay, if you see the data, you will observe that our gross domestic investment as a percentage of GDP is higher than that of GDS. Now this difference is due to our foreign investment flow. Okay, that is when you talk about your basic macroeconomic equation, that is y equals to c plus I plus g. Okay, c plus I plus g plus x minus m. That x minus m is net export income, or here you can take it as a say a proxy for the foreign inflow. So when your savings gap, if there is a savings gap, saving investment gap, that gap is being fulfilled by the foreign inflow, and therefore actual investment may be higher than your domestic savings. That is the explanation for GDI as a percentage of GDP being higher sometimes, or even most of the times, compared to that of GDS. Okay. Now coming to this puzzle, what we call as saving investment puzzle, which occurred during say 1951-69, that is the first phase, and 1974-85. What have we observed? In the first phase, 1951-69, the puzzle indicated that despite this GDS and GDI, the growth in gross domestic savings and gross domestic investment as a percentage of GDP, despite the growth, there was a decline, as I have indicated in my slide, that there was a decline, okay, during the first 3 or 4 5-year plans in the GDP. Okay, so despite a growth in GDS, why there has been a fall in GDP? This is a question. This is a puzzle. Again, in 1974-85, the puzzle was the GDS, okay, that I have shown, declined a bit, and GDI increased marginally. But despite that, there was a higher growth in our GDP. So why? This can be explained. In many economists, they have explained it from on the basis of a very simple Harrod-Domer type of growth model. This Harrod-Domer type of growth model indicates the relationship between the say our GDP growth in terms of the productivity of capital and the ratio of investment to total GDP. For example, you can write growth as YT minus 1 by YT. That is the growth of your income, for example, real income. and there is delta y by y, and you can write it as delta y by delta k into delta k by y. What is this? Delta k, this is the rate of capital formation. This is capital formation, rate of change of capital stock. That is equal to I, that is investment. So I by y is investment as a proportion of your output, and this delta y by delta k is productivity of capital. This is MPK, and the inverse indicates delta k by delta y. That is called as incremental capital output ratio. That is the amount of capital which you need to increase your output by 1 unit. So this is a technological constant in this model. It is indicated by V. V means incremental capital output ratio, and this at equilibrium you can write I equals to S, investment equals to savings. So I by Y can be equal to S by Y. So ultimately your growth of output becomes equal to your savings ratio divided by this incremental capital output ratio. Now you can explain the puzzle. For example, if your S rises, your savings rises, but your growth is falling, why? Your incremental capital output ratio may be rising at a faster rate. So if there is an increase in incremental capital output ratio, that means your production technology is very much capital intensive technology, and that actually indicates your marginal productivity, comparatively lower marginal productivity of capital. That can explain to some extent that why, despite a growth in GDS, your output may be falling. Okay, do you get it? Do you get me? Follow me? Is it boring, or do you follow me?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the other side of the puzzle is your S is falling, but your G is rising. That can also be, if your S is falling, then if you observe that V is falling at a faster rate, if there is a fall in V, that means now your capital is now being more productive. So by improving the productivity of capital, you can raise your G despite a slight fall in S. This can solve your puzzle. This is one of the most important aspects of Indian economy. Now, this is another part which I have taken from the solo growth model. Okay, this is called the convergence in the growth process. Why I'm interested to show this? Because when you observe growth as a whole in the economy, there can be disparity across different states. For example, the growth rate of, say, this Maharashtra, say West Bengal, Punjab, Haryana, then Gujarat, etc. The growth rates may not match. Okay. So they may differ, and that difference, that disparity in the growth rate across states may increase if that divergence across states in terms of growth gradually reduces. That is called a convergence, and it is called as, technically it is called beta convergence, and it is defined as a negative correlation between the growth rate of per capita income and the initial income level. For example, if you have low income level, and if you grow very high, this is one aspect. And another state, developed state with high income but low growth rate, then eventually that low income state can eventually catch up the high income state. That is called as the convergence. That is, the growth of income is converging. So whether across Indian states the growth has converged or not, this is one aspect of economic growth process. And there is another aspect of this sigma convergence. Sigma convergence means the per capita income disparity across the states, whether that disparity or that dispersion, okay, across states in terms of per capita income, that is reducing or not, that is called sigma convergence in simple terms. So there can be, and again, some technical terms are there, whether there is an absolute convergence. Absolute convergence means when you consider that the growth rate of different states are converging, if you do not consider the characteristics of any particular state. For example, the characteristics of Rajasthan is quite different from that of West Bengal. Okay, if you do not take into account this characteristics, okay, geopolitical or say climatic condition, several other conditions, okay, structural condition of a particular state, if you just consider their convergence, then that is called absolute convergence. But if you take into account that state specific characteristics and the convergence, that is called conditional convergence. So I will give you some example. Say example in terms of the studies undertaken by different economists. For example, since 1990s, we have studies, say from Subrata Marjit, Mitra, Dholakia, Vajpayee, Shashe, different studies I have taken. Okay, some of this, there are more studies, and the number of states they have considered, the period they have considered, and please see the study. Some of the studies have shown the result. Their findings is yes, our growth rate has converged across states. Some of the studies have shown the evidence of divergence, that is, they have not converged, and some of them have shown absolute divergence, or in this way. So they are not actually say their opinions are not similar on this particular aspect. And I can show you some example also. Here I have taken some example from Government of India report, Economic Survey 2016-2017. Okay, in that particular report, they have shown this example, showing the convergence pattern of China and India during 1994 to 2014. So first they have segregated the total years, the total period into two parts. First part is 1994 to 2004, and the second part is 2004 to 2014, a long span. And please see what I have shown, what I have stated, that beta convergence means a negative correlation between the initial income, your initial income, and your growth rate. For example, you have only 10 rupees in your pocket, and if your 10 rupees is growing at the rate of 50% per annum, that is one thing. So lower the income, higher the growth rate, then only you can catch up. Okay, do you understand? You follow? So this relationship should be negative. But here, this blue line, please see the blue line. This blue line indicates in case of India, and these are the states. Please see Goa, Delhi, Kerala, Haryana, Himachal Pradesh, West Bengal, etc. And here in the horizontal axis, what you are taking, real GDP per capita, PPP, okay, purchasing power parity per capita income, and the log of that per capita income in 1994. This is the initial period. So, and the vertical axis, you are taking average growth rate of real per capita GDP. Okay, so if you observe that at the initial stage at 1994, if a state has lower real income and higher growth rate, and a state having higher per capita income and lower growth rate, only then there will be convergence. You follow me? If you have low income, you have higher growth, and if you have higher income and low growth, then only there will be a convergence. That has not happened in case of India. So the slope of this line is positively sloped. So positive slope means higher income, higher growth, low income, lower growth. So there was no sign of this beta convergence during this period in India, as opposed to a slight indication of convergence in China and a slight indication of convergence in case of world as a whole. Okay. Now coming to the next part, please see, this is a period of 2004 to 2014. Please see, this is very sharp indication of convergence in case of China. For example, is a negatively sloped curve. That means the state having higher base level income, their growth was low, and the state having lower income, their growth was higher. But same was in case of world, but in case of India, the case was just the opposite. So even the document provided by the government of India, they also agreed that in India, we do not find, say, this convergence in the growth rate. Is it clear, my dear students? Is it clear to you? You can ask me questions, okay? At the end
yes.
of at the end of the lecture, you can ask me. Now,
yes.
Okay, so now I am giving you some indications of this divergence of growth. I have taken some states like Bihar, Madhya Pradesh, Rajasthan and UP. Often we call them as Bimaru. Bimaru matlab ka kya hota hai? Bimaru matlab bimar ho gaye. Okay, they are very ill health states. Traditionally, they are called Bimaru. And I have taken, this is my creation, a terminology, Mahagopuketa. Mahagopuketa means the states of this Maharashtra, Haryana, Goa, Punjab, Kerala and Tamil Nadu, which have shown more than average income. Okay, please see here, I have shown the per capita net state domestic product and the gap. Please see, the red bars indicate the average per capita income of the developed states of India, Mahagopuketa, and the blue bar indicate the Bimaru state. See, the gap has increased over years. So that means the divergence prevails. Here I have shown the growth rate also. That means I have started from 1980-81 pre-reform, and I have considered it up to a pre-COVID period, 2018-19. I have taken the average, say, per capita net state domestic product over years. Okay, this is constant term, this is real. And then I have taken the standard deviation of that income across over years, across states. And then I have considered the coefficient of variation, mean by standard deviation, which measures that over years, please see, this coefficient of variation is increasing. That means the disparity of this per capita income across Indian states have increased over years. This also proves the absence of convergence. So I have proved very simply for students that they can understand that yes, we have experienced growth overall, but we have not experienced convergence of growth across states over years. Okay, now coming to the next one again, you may ask me a question, why this disparity? One of the most important factors is the infrastructural gap across these states. I have taken in terms of per capita availability of power, okay, electrical power, kilowatt. So please see the Bimaru and Mahagopuketa states, their distance is increasing in terms of the per capita availability of power. So this is how you can explain that why these Bimaru states are say deficient in terms of the per capita income growth compared to the Mahagopuketa states. Yes, economic infrastructure can also be explained in terms of your digital advancement. And here I have shown during the post-reform period the number of our percentage of India's population using internet, and that percentage has increased by leaps and bounds, particularly during the COVID period. We see the steep rise in the users of internet. But this is a sign of growth. And in India, the digital growth rate, digital adoption index, there is an index called digital adoption index that is very high in case of India, and India's position amongst several other countries is very high. But there is still a digital divergence, a disparity in terms of this use of the computer as with internet among the students, okay, enrolled, okay, percentage of enrolled students in India with access to digital infrastructure. This I have taken from one article from EPW, okay. It is particularly for the year 17-18. This is just a year, just a reflection to make you understand that the pattern of disparity, digital disparity in India. Here I have taken the rural sector, the urban sector, and the all India level. Please see this gray bar indicates the percentage of students with internet facility. This deep gray, and the light gray indicates the percentage of students with computer, okay, and this black one is most important, computer with internet. You see there's a very stark difference between the rural and urban students with their access to computer with internet. If there is such a difference, then there will definitely be a digital divide, okay. That means they do not have proper access to internet and the learning process. In a similar fashion, if you move across the different social groups, for example, SC, ST, OBC students, and compare them with the general students, again on the same basis, you will find that disparity, okay, that digital disparity exists across different social groups and across income groups also. We see this terribly different, this access to computer internet between the richest 10% and the poorest 10% group of the students belonging to this group, okay. Please see the difference. So this indicates that despite the growth of digital growth in India, this distance, this disparity exists. So here lies the question of development. Actually, when you are concerned in terms of economic development, you are not concerned only in terms of the growth in quantity, but also the quality of that growth. Okay, that is my point. Now here, you may ask me, or naturally one aspect that comes to our mind that has how far the government of India was interested to expand that infrastructure through the capital investment, capital expenditure. And I have taken some budgetary data up to the current data 24-25 budget estimate. And here I have shown you the percentage of this central government expenditure as a percentage of GDP. This red bar indicates capital expenditure, and this blue bar indicates the revenue expenditure, and this green bar indicates the total expenditure. What is the difference between revenue expenditure and capital expenditure? Revenue expenditure means such expenditure in the government budget which doesn't create any asset nor even reduces the liability of the government. Okay, revenue expenditure, for example, expenditure for defense purposes, expenditure for raising the DA of the workers, government workers. Okay, expenditure for meeting the debt obligations, interest payment on government loan. These are revenue expenditure. But if you build, say, railway lines, roads, dams, electricity generation stations, etc., that is called capital expenditure that can, say, support your production system. But please see, if you compare the revenue expenditure with capital expenditure, this capital expenditure as a percentage of GDP is far lower compared to that of revenue expenditure. Yes, the government, now you know the fiscal deficit. For reducing the fiscal deficit, which was very high during the COVID period, the government is gradually reducing its expenditure. Please see, 19.15% to 14.49%. It's gradually reducing its expenditure, budgetary expenditure, and thereby reducing the revenue expenditure. But capital expenditure has recently gradually increased. That is a good sign, but it is comparatively lower. And we need higher capital expenditure for the expansion of infrastructure, particularly in the rural areas of India, which is still deficient in infrastructure for the proper growth with justice, with dignity in India. Now, in my initial slide, I have told you the indicators of economic development in terms of Human Development Index, and this is for India. If you see during the post-reform period, 1990 to 2021, you see this index has gradually increased from 0.4 to 0.6. This is a nice indication that, yes, the Human Development Index, which is based not only on income, but also on educational attainment, the health attainment, and there is a pure indication of improvement in this aspect for India. But this bracket indicates India's position amongst the other countries. So India's position was 114th in 1990, but now it is 132nd. The position has slipped down. So that is a bad indication. Therefore, yes, it has improved. The index has improved, but other countries, they have improved faster than India. So we must move forward, okay, in terms of the development, also in terms of human development, so as to make ourselves more developed, okay, in these in these dimensions. Now, one of the most important aspect of life expectancy at birth in determining that Human Development Index, and here I have shown in terms of India, and over years, starting from 1993 up to 2019, we see the distance between the average life expectancy at birth between the Bimaru state and the developed, relatively developed Mahagopuketa states. And please see the distance of life expectancy at birth. Okay, that means the health facilities in some of the states are higher, more better compared to those Bimaru states or less developed states. The next one is, this is very important development indicator. When you talk about the gender disparity or gender-oriented development index, then you consider this infant mortality rate or maternal mortality rate. And here also, if you see over years, there is a gap between this Bimaru states and Mahagopuketa state. That is the less developed and more developed states in India. There is a gap. This gap indicates the gap in development. Yes, so there's a gap in growth and there's a gap in development also. Okay. Now the public expenditure in health. When there is a gap in health, you must tell me that, sir, what is the role of the government in this case? Yes, the government has gradually increased its expenditure, public expenditure in India on health, but it is far low. It is only 1.28% in 17-18, okay, just before the COVID period. Okay, now it has increased a bit, but still, if you compare, okay, with other countries of the world, India is in, for example, 2015-16, I have make a comparison. You can see the Sweden, you can see France, Denmark, Switzerland. Even in case of Singapore, it was higher than that of India in terms of public expenditure on health. So, in government of India, it should look into this area of health for true development. Social infrastructure, again, in case of education. So education and health, which Amartya Sen gives more importance for capability expansion. I have taken these two areas, and here also, if you see from 1951-52 to 2019-20, okay, what do you observe? There's a stagnant expenditure, stagnancy in India's expenditure on education. So that should rise. Okay, our new economic, new education policy indicates that it should be at least 6% of India's GDP, but I think it has not still happened. Okay, so here lies the problem of this deficiency in the development in some of the areas. Now, here I have taken the budgetary expenditure again in different ministry-wise expenditure. I have taken defense, road transport, railways, food and public, rural development in the first instance. Please see what has happened as a percentage of GDP over years. Okay, I have taken 2021 budget actual and up to the present budget 2024-25. What you observe, the defense as a percentage of GDP, it has declined. This is a good sign. Defense is a revenue expenditure. It's a good sign because that will not create any permanent asset for the development of the country. But this is also a good sign. Road and transport infrastructure that has increased. Okay, the trend is increasing. Railways increasing, good sign. But food and public distribution, okay, it has sharply declined. Okay, during the post-COVID period. For example, you know, naturally the government has had to distribute food. Okay, during the COVID area amongst the migratory people or among the poor people, poor part of the poor say segment of the society. But that is falling, sharply declined. Rural development, this expenditure declined. Okay, so this decline is important. When you want real development in agricultural sector, rural sector, then this should not decline. Okay, in absolute sense, you will find that the absolute figure, the expenditure, government expenditure has increased, but as in terms of GDP, as a percentage of GDP, that has declined. This is most important. Again, I have taken farmer and welfare, agricultural farmers, agricultural laborer and farmers welfare expenditure on that has also declined. Communication, okay, road and communication, that has increased. Education, please see, slight decline. Health and family, very important, health and family welfare, that has declined. So what do you observe? What is needed? Government should spend more on education and health, which is very much important for development of a country, economic development. Okay, there's housing facilities which was very high. This you can say an outlier. This has happened particularly during COVID, and then gradually it has declined and remained stagnant. So these are some of the aspects of government expenditure from where also you can have an understanding of the role of the government for economic development. That is, in which areas they should spend more, in which areas they should reduce their spending, and whether that has happened in India. For that, I have presented this figure. Now I come in to the next part of my lecture. This is all about the employment. Okay, now it is already 1 hour. I think I have taken a lot of time, but I will take quickly. I will take another. If you give me another 5 or 10 minutes, okay. Can I continue?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Okay. This is very important. It is called, economists call it employment elasticity to GDP growth. We are talking about growth. We are talking about the GDP of India is growing, but when India is growing in terms of GDP, whether our employment opportunities are also growing. So what is employment elasticity to GDP growth? What is the formula? Percentage change in employment whole divided by percentage change in GDP. Just like price elasticity of demand. Okay, percentage change in demand divided by percentage change in price. Here, percentage change in employment divided by percentage change in GDP. So GDP is growing, denominator is growing, but the numerator is not growing to that extent. Therefore, the elasticity is less than 1. So it is inelastic. It is inelastic. Please see from 1987 and 1987-94, gradually when you move, it is always less than 1, and it was almost 0 in 2005-10, and then turned up and then became negative. And that time during 2012-18, economists call it job loss growth, and that inelastic part, it is called as jobless growth. So what is the character of India's growth? It is jobless growth. And when it became negative, elasticity is negative, it is called job loss growth. And recent, I have calculated this of my own, and I have calculated that gradually it has turned around, but still it is less than 1. So still now it is jobless growth, okay? And here I have shown how different segments of our economy, that employment in particular segment, that was also indicating negative growth during 2012-18. Of course, COVID period was an outlier. Now here, this is for you, youth unemployment rate, okay? I don't want to actually just create any negative impact on your mind because this is continuously rising, and it is now more amongst the female, okay? This is more among the female youth, okay? This red line is female. This percentage of youth unemployment among the female, and this green is among the male, and this blue is average. So gradually what you observe, this is one of the most important problem before India, that is this labor force within the age group of 15 to 24 as a percentage of the total labor force in this group, they are unemployed, okay? The percentage of unemployment, that is increasing over the years. That means the supply of labor force in the youth, okay, youth group has increased as opposed to the demand for them, okay? So this is important. This is very important. And if you want to really develop, that unemployment rate should fall. And this is another very important aspect of income inequality. And this World Inequality Database, I have taken this data. If you see, that is the share of the top 10% of the Indian people, okay? Their share in national income, that has increased from 37% almost in 1951 to 57% in 2020. See that this continuous rise, particularly during the post-reform period, and the share of the bottom 50%, okay, the middle class and low income group, their share is now only 13%. So there is a glaring, inequality in the distribution of income. And if you observe that your income is growing, but your inequality in the distribution of income and wealth is also growing, that you cannot and you should not consider that economy as a developed economy. So that is this contrast between our growth in terms of our size of GDP and growth in terms of inequality in the distribution of income. This is another part, very important, that labor market. I have gone through different research works. Recently, I have gone through the Veeramani, as the famous IGIDR professor, now is in another organization as a chairman. And in their work, and this is Jiko Dasgupta's work, and in every work, what they have shown that in the organized manufacturing sector, registered manufacturing sector, the share of wages in the gross value added, that has declined, okay? And now in this age of artificial intelligence, okay, now we are moving towards typical domain of artificial intelligence and robotics, and you can well imagine what will be the nature of the labor market. And this falling share of wages, okay, in this manufacturing sector will again, that will lead to more inequality in different segments of our our economy, okay? And that is not good for the progress of a country, because that can lead to much more social unrest among different groups of people. This is another very interesting study of Saloni Khurana and Kanika Mahajan, 2020, and this is they have first shown the urban men and urban women, that is over years 1980 to 2020, what segment of this women and men, their literacy level, okay, You see, the illiterate percentage has among the men has declined. The illiterate percentage of women workforce, okay, that has also declined. That is, they have become much more literate, and this green segment means up to class 10, then higher secondary, then college level. So this increased area of blue area means that educational attainment has increased over the years. So if you consider the urban women and men workforce in terms of their educational attainments over years, that has increased. Now in the next slide, very interesting, their return from that education, that is educational premium on weekly earnings. Here the researcher, they have considered the urban men workers and urban women workers, and as we have seen our past slide, that their educational attainments have improved gradually. But please see, after 2000, after the year 2000, the premium, that is the return from their educational attainment, has gradually declined. For example, this uppermost line is the service sector, then the secondary sector, the secondary up to level of education. It is that the college level education for the main workers. They are much more educated, but they are not getting proper salary. Okay, weekly earning, their weekly earning is falling. Okay, and then in case of women also. So exception is in case of up to class 10. In case of women workers, that has increased, but overall there has been a decline or almost stagnant share. That means you are attaining, for example, often it is said that labor force participation rate among the women workforce has declined. Okay, so you are preparing, you are making yourself much more educated, but you expect more salary. But what happens really is that despite your more educational attainment, you are not getting proper salary, proper remuneration, and that has been reflected here. So this is a very bad indication. So I have so far I have lectured regarding our economic inequality, etc., different dimensions of economic inequality. But in Amartya Sen's view, Amartya Sen is of the opinion that in his book Uncertain Glory, Sen and Dries and Sen, in their book, they have shown that in the 20th century, India has been characterized by different forms of inequality, multiple inequalities in terms of caste division, class barrier, gender discrimination, social gaps, and all these gaps or inequalities, they actually this multiply, they mutually reinforce one as the other. That is, if there is caste division, class barrier, gender-based discrimination, then that leads to higher inequality in the distribution of income. So they are mutually reinforcing. So the challenge is very big for India. India's challenge is not only in terms of growth. India's challenge is how to reduce this inequality in different forms so as to make itself really developed. And poverty, I'm not talking more about poverty. Our poverty rate has declined, and just now today morning I was going through this multidimensional poverty index report 2023 published by UNDP. They have shown that yes, over years this multidimensionally poor people that has declined over years. Okay, no doubt, but still the problem is there. Okay, and here I have taken some example from the falling consumption of monthly consumption expenditure. And this key indicates household consumption expenditure. This report by NSSO was actually not considered by the Government of India. Government of India subsequently they have just removed this report from their website. But actually today morning also in Telegraph, a famous economist, my dada, Somen Shikdar, okay, he has written an article. Please read that article. That danger of data fogging in India. Data fogging means you are at the government level, you are creating some data, but that is that's not the correct data. That is, you use your data in a different way just to popularize your political ideologies. Okay, your political gain. Data is now being used for political gain. So manufacturing of data. Okay, so if you do not get proper data, the quality of data has degraded. So that is also a bad aspect. So whatever analysis I have done here so far on the basis of government data, published data. If the data itself is of bad quality, then the outcome will be bad, of course. Okay. Here I have taken the global hunger index also, and hunger index is based on the malnourishment, the child stunting, child wasting, that is whether their height, their weight is in accordance with their age, their child mortality, etc. India has improved. There has been gradual improvement in case of hunger index for India. Okay, that has declined. That means there has been an improvement in hunger. That incidence of hunger has declined, but India's rank is much behind. That India's rank was 107 in 2022. Even Nepal and Bangladesh, their rank is higher than that of India. So yes, improvement, but we are concerned about relative position of India in terms of this. So some of the facts which are of great concern are now. Economics is distancing itself from ethics. Okay, everywhere you will find some of this ethical values have depleted in economic activities. That is a concern. If you can move ahead with ethical values, so your positive economics should be properly supplemented by the normatives of economics. And in the recent past, as I have told, the World Bank has dismissed some of the statistical data provided by the government of India in terms of ease of doing business. So that is bad for our economy. So you must have, when you want to improve, when you want to develop, you must also develop from the ethical side also. Okay. And this is my last slide. Okay. Long years ago, we made a tryst with destiny. Jawaharlal Nehru in 1947 speech, he has said, and now the time comes when you shall redeem our pledge, and not wholly or in full measure, but very substantially. Okay. So now my question is, should we now take new pledges, renewed pledges? Okay. Thank you very much for your kind presence in my lecture. I do not know what I have spoken, but I have tried my level best to make you understand the basic difference between the growth and development. Now,
thank you so much, sir, for the incredible, insightful, and inspiring speech. Before we dive into the content, I would like to go over a few important points to ensure that the webinar runs smoothly. Firstly, I kindly request everyone to keep their meeting speaker muted during the question and answer part. Myself, Anusha Bhomik, I am one of the moderator of question and answer part. So now let's delve into the questions that have been provided by our participants via the Google form during the meeting. So our first question is from Pritha Shaha. She asked, India is the 5th largest economy in the world. Why it is still an underdeveloped and poor country?
Actually, India is not an underdeveloped, it is a developing country. Okay. It is, yes, it is poor, not in quantity. It is not poor, actually poor in the sense that your income. So India is not poor in that sense. India, in terms of GDP, is 5th richest countries of the world. So it is not poor, and per capita income is also rising. So in that sense, India cannot be termed as poor country now, and the poverty rate has also declined. So yes, but you could have asked me a question that why India is underdeveloped. Okay, it has actually progressed in many fronts, but it has not actually excelled well in several fronts, which was supposed to be at the level of some of the developed countries of the world, like Sweden or Norway or Switzerland, etc. But that has not happened. Yes. Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Shambhaditya Mukherjee. I'm the second moderator of the Q&A session. The next question for you, sir, is from Shonak Dotto. How does the debt to GDP ratio indicate growth of a country? Where does our country stand in this scenario?
Very good question. Actually, this was a very relevant aspect of recent economic condition of Sri Lanka, when a country is very much indebted. Yes, debt to GDP ratio when a country normally a developing country wants to grow, and if there is a saving investment gap, as I have told in my slide during my lecture, it has to actually acquire fund from other sources. It can be from internal sources, internal debt, we call it public debt, or it can be from external sources, we call it external debt. In case of India, the debt to GDP ratio, it is from external source, it is only about say 4 to 5%, very low. Okay, but in case of Sri Lanka, it was 115% and even higher. So Sri Lanka was indebted, and that was dangerous because the country didn't have the obligation. Okay, the burden of debt, that is most important. If you take your debt from outside sources, from foreign countries, then you have to actually repay that debt. That is, we call it debt servicing, when you repay in terms of both interest as well as principal. So when you pay that interest and along with principal amount to the foreigners, then there's a net outflow of resources from your country. Okay, so that is a real burden for the country. But if you take your loan from within the country, for example, if you take a loan from LIC, from say this IDBI, okay, from some development banks, okay, then and you repay that loan, then actually you are taking loan from some of the government or public sector organizations. It is as if you are putting your money from your left pocket to the right pocket. That means it is balanced, it is within the economy. So that burden is not so huge. So in India, yes, the debt GDP ratio from internal source, it is about 49 to 50%. It is of course it is there, but it is not very much say alarming in that sense that our external debt is lesser compared to the internal debt. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Our next question is from Prithviraj Biswas. He asked, how intensively has the problem of missing middle affected India throughout the post-liberalization period? It is a still problem now. What can be the possible tweaks?
Actually, what happened, if you see the labor this market in India, sometimes it is said that the most affected people are the middle class people, because they cannot go down to the this daily worker as a daily worker, for example, or not they can reach the higher, say, high income group. So they are in the middle class. So middle class people, if we assume that they are fixed income group, then recently, if you see the scenario, Indian economic scenario, you observe that with the growing prices, average prices of necessity items, there is inflationary pressure. Their purchasing power is falling. Okay, in my slide, I have also shown that the household sector, most of them are middle class, they are more indebted now. This is very, very crucial. Okay, and their savings, their financial assets has declined. So this middle class, they have faced a problem, particularly after COVID. Their position dwindled in terms of their financial assets, their savings. Okay, and I have also explained during my lecture that if there is decline in their position in terms of savings, their contribution to GDS, gross domestic savings, will fall. That is, the small savings will fall, and that has an say implication for our growth in terms of a situation where the government, okay, central government normally borrows huge from this small savings of the household sector. So if there is a fall in the middle class savings, then there will be less available funds for government to borrow to invest in capital projects, and that will affect our growth. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. The next question for you is from Anushka Gupta. How is India's growing dependence on service sector without strong foothold in the manufacturing sector going to affect the economy?
I think during my lecture I have already explained. If you have you gone through, Anushka? I think when I have shown you that service-led growth, I have delivered. I have an extended lecture. I have explained why we should not bother about. We should not be very much we should be actually concerned about this service sector say boom, what we call the World Bank has shown it as a boom, service sector boom in India, and it was a service-led growth. As I have told, again, I want to reiterate that service sector does not produce anything real. Okay, for example, this year in the government of West Bengal budget, okay, I was in the budget analysis session. They have increased the DA. No? Do you know the 4% DA for the government workers? Your professors, okay, they are government workers. I am pensioner. Okay, I have retired from my service in 2016. Okay, but still I am running. I am on the crease. I am batting still. অল্প অল্প করে রান নিচ্ছি এখনো ক্রিজে আছি তোদের জন্য so what I think is that service sector, when your salary increases, automatically your contribution rises, but you are not producing, you are giving the same lecture, you are taking the same class, you are the same person, okay, so your productivity has not increased, but the value has increased. That is the problem. But if you do not have any proper footing on industry, a country is growing only with its service, it is unsustainable. I have read one very good article in EPW of, I think, of Krishnamurthy, where he says that that if for India it is growing on the say on the wings of the service, but it is not sustainable in the sense that in the service sector, recent trend is service sector, it is growing in terms of its output, but employment in the service sector is inelastic. You will find, for example, if there is artificial intelligence, okay, great data, okay, big data, and this IoT, Internet of Things, what will happen? The companies will grow, but they will not employ. Only one person can do 10% work. Do you know one robot in Indian industry, how they replace, how much workers they replace? Do you know? Do you know one robot can replace 100 workers? So if your service sector employs one robot, for example, you enter into a restaurant and you order, there is a robot. Hello, what do you want? What will happen? The restaurant will grow, but employment will not grow. Nah? So that will happen. So if you do not have proper footings of industries, okay, the country, real growth will not happen. That is my point. Thank you.
So thank you, sir. The last question for you is from Preeta Chaha. Why is India moving towards privatization? How has it impacted the growth and development of the Indian economy?
Actually, if you consider the country, actually since 1991, one of the more slogan, actually LPG slogan that you know is privatization. That is governments more emphasizing more on the expansion of the private sector. Okay, now if you compare the contribution of the private sector in employment, contribution of private sector in total investment now for the last few decades, you will find that private sector's investment is as a percentage of GDP is now more than that of government sector's investment. Private sector employment creation is more than that of the government sector. Actually, the government sector is squeezing. Okay, it is downsizing its investment, and that gap is being replaced by the private sector. There is no harm in it. Okay, there is no harm in it. But my point is the objective is different. If you are in the government sector, the objective is social welfare. But if you are in the private sector, the objective is profit maximization. So if you grow with your main objective of profit maximization, then what will happen? In my slide, what I have shown, in the organized manufacturing sector, where most of the organizations are private organizations, have you seen the share of the workers, wages of the workers have declined? So that will happen. That will happen. Yes, in terms of the growth, that will happen. But in terms of equity and justice, will be in the back foot. Thank you. Any other question?
Thank you for such insightful answers, sir. Now I would like to hand over the mic to Siddharth.
Thank you, sir. On the behalf of Economic Society of Maulana Azad College, I thank you, sir, for such a brainstorming session. Thank you for letting us know the major differences between the terms growth and development, which are commonly used for one another. Please accept our deepest gratitude for taking out your time for the webinar. We are definitely going to take back a lot from here. Thank you everyone for joining. I believe all of you loved the conference. Now, sir, if we have your permission, we would like to take a screenshot of the meeting.
হ্যাঁ স্ক্রিনশট নাও, কিন্তু আমার কিছু কথা আছে। I have something to say. I have not even received one cup of tea. So I want to meet all of you and to have a cup of tea or a cup of coffee with all of you. So this is a deprivation. So I am talking about development, but I am under the deprived. So a deprived man, what can he see? That even without a cup of tea, telling say 1 hour or more, this is injustice, na?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. আমি তোমায় দেখাবো মজা, আমি তোমার কলেজে যাব, তখন দেখবে মজা, বুঝতে পেরেছিস? আমি মৌলানা আজাদ কলেজে, তোদের কি যেন ছিল তখন প্রিন্সিপাল, ওই যে বল মমতা রায়চৌধুরী, না মমতা রায়চৌধুরী এক সময় প্রিন্সিপাল ছিলেন।
Actually, they are not familiar with Mamata Di because Mamata Di left, I think, in 2017 or so. But
কিন্তু দেখো শান্তনু, এটা ইনজাস্টিস না শান্তনু? Is it, do you think that this is an injustice that without any cup of tea?
It is a gross injustice. But I think there is a way out. Students nowadays, see, you have talked about service sector, etc. There is a service sector of delivery boys.
I do not want delivery boy. I want to go to Siddhartha Pal directly to the college. I want to meet Tanisha Jaiswal. I want to meet Anusha Bhomik, and directly I want to meet them. Shantanu, তুমি একটা ব্যবস্থা করো, সব হয়ে যাক, তারপরে কলেজে যাব, যেতে পারি না?
Sure, ওয়েলকাম। আমি তো বলেছি যে আমাদের কলেজে আমাদের এবারে ডেভেলপমেন্ট ইকোনমিক্স আসছে,
আমি কি একদিন পড়িয়ে দিয়ে আসবো তোদেরকে?
হ্যাঁ, আপনার একটা স্পেশাল লেকচার আমি অ্যারেঞ্জ করব।
আচ্ছা ঠিক আছে, হ্যাঁ আমি ভীষণ ভালোবাসি
ওটা। আমরা প্রিন্সিপালের থ্রু দিয়ে ফর্মাল ইনভিটেশন দিয়ে যা করার করব আমরা।
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ, থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
এটা ধরুন মার্চ এপ্রিলের মধ্যেই করব।
হ্যাঁ, খুব ভালো হয়। আমার তো পড়াতে ভালো লাগে বলে এতদিন ধরে দেখ না আমি কি করে ভালো আছি।
কলেজে ওই একবার টার্ম পেপারের এই
আমি এসেছিলাম তো আপনাদের, হ্যাঁ আমি এসেছিলাম তো, হ্যাঁ আমি এসেছিলাম।
টার্ম পেপারটা যখন হলো তখন করোনা পড়ে গেল বলে বোধহয় আর হলো না।
তারপর তুমিও তো এসেছিলে আমার বাড়িতে।
হ্যাঁ, আমি আর উজ্জ্বল বাবু গিয়েছিলাম তো তখন। হ্যাঁ, ওই স্যার রিটায়ার করে গেছেন, আমার সঙ্গে যিনি গিয়েছিলেন।
আচ্ছা, ও ঠিক আছে, থ্যাংক ইউ সো মাচ।
হ্যাঁ, আপনি যে মানে বাচ্চা ছেলে মেয়েদের জন্য যে আপনি সময় দিয়েছেন আপনার এই ব্যস্ততার মধ্যেও, এটা বিরাট ব্যাপার। সবাই তো আর এই রিকোয়েস্ট গুলো মানে করতে পারেন না, রাখতে পারেন না। যাই হোক, এর জন্য আমি
আমার কি হয় জানো শান্তনু, I am indebted to them. Actually, আমার ব্যস্ততা, I am indebted to them, indebted to all of you, because I personally, when I give any lecture, I profusely read from different reports. I read my books.
এবং ওদের কোশ্চেন দেখো অনেক কিছু আমাদের তখন লার্ন করাতে হয়। সেটাও
এমন কি যে ওদের বললাম আজকে সকালেও আমি পড়েছি। This is my practice. When for the last 43 years, আমি 43 years ধরে পড়াচ্ছি। Every day আমি যখন ক্লাসে যাই তার আগে আমি পড়াশোনা করে যাই। আমি পড়াশোনা ছাড়া থাকতে পারি। This is my actually habit. Thank you once again for giving me this opportunity to share my views with you. Thanks to everybody. Thank you, Shantanu. ঠিক আছে, তাহলে লিভ করছি। হ্যাঁ, ওকে, না একটা স্ক্রিনশট নিবি তো? হ্যাঁ, স্ক্রিনশট নাও।
আচ্ছা,
ওরা একটা ক্লিক স্ক্রিনশট নেব, আমাকে পাঠিয়ে দিবি কিন্তু।
এই স্ক্রিনশট আমাদেরকেও পাঠাবে?
হ্যাঁ স্যার পাঠিয়ে দেব।
আমাদের নাকের কাজে লাগবে।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
Okay. So I am leaving.
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ দেবাশিস।
হ্যাঁ স্ক্রিনশট হয়ে গেছে।
আচ্ছা, থ্যাংক ইউ।
আচ্ছা, আমিও লিভ করতে পারি?
হ্যাঁ, থ্যাংক ইউ।
ঠিক আছে, আমি লিভ করছি।
হ্যাঁ স্যার, থ্যাংক ইউ স্যার।
থ্যাংক ইউ।